Most men believe they are operating from strength. They are not. And the gap between what they believe and what is actually driving their behavior is where their lives are quietly being lost. Not in dramatic failures, not in visible collapse, in 6 specific patterns, repeated daily, that accumulate into a life that feels stuck, disrespected, and without clear direction. The Stoics identified this problem 2,000 years ago with surgical precision. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not over external events. Epictetus reinforced it. It is not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. Weakness does not begin in the world. It begins in how you position yourself in front of it. Today, we are going through 6 signs, not to judge, to identify and eliminate. Sign 1. You react before you think. Criticism arrives and you lose composure immediately. Something goes wrong and you collapse. Pressure appears and you retreat. This is not passion. This is the steering wheel of your life, handed to every external event that passes through. A man who reacts automatically becomes predictable, and a predictable man is an easy man to manipulate. The Stoic correction is not to stop feeling. Feeling is not the problem. The problem is the absence of space between stimulus and response. That space is where self-control is constructed. That space is where character lives. Every time you observe before reacting, you reclaim a fraction of authority over your own life. Every time you react without choosing, you surrender it. The accumulation of those moments, across days and years, determines whether you become someone who governs himself or someone who is governed by whatever happens to him next. Sign 2. You carry a permanent inventory of reasons not to act. Lack of time, lack of resources, lack of the right circumstances. The situation is always slightly wrong for the action you know you need to take. This is not analysis. This is the architecture of avoidance. And beneath every excuse sits the same uncomfortable truth. Taking responsibility means surrendering the role of victim, and that requires a courage most men are unwilling to develop. As long as the cause of your circumstances is located outside yourself, you remain dependent on factors that will never be fully under your control. The question that breaks this pattern is simple. What is within my control right now? Not eventually, not under better conditions. Right now. That question does not remove difficulty. It removes the justification for remaining passive in the face of it. And the moment you stop being passive, you begin building rather than waiting. Sign 3. You measure your value by what others reflect back to you. You adjust your behavior to be accepted. You avoid conflict to avoid rejection. You soften your position to keep the room comfortable. And gradually, almost invisibly, you drift away from who you actually are. This is one of the most dangerous patterns on this list because it disguises itself as virtue. It looks like humility. It looks like social awareness. But it is dependence. Every time you require external validation to feel stable, you give away a piece of your identity. And without a stable identity, there is no foundation for genuine strength. Strong men are not indifferent to others. They simply do not require others' approval to know where they stand. They live by principles that exist independently of whether those principles are applauded. Epictetus spent years as a slave. He had nothing external that society would call valuable. And he became one of the most studied philosophers in Western history because his standard was internal. It always had been. How many times have you held yourself back because of what someone else might think? That number tells you exactly how much of your authority is currently held by other people. Before we continue, this is where most people quit. If you're still here, you're different. Subscribe to this channel, not for motivation, but for mental tools you can actually use. In a world of noise, we offer direction. In a world of distraction, we build discipline. Hit that subscribe button now. Let's continue. Sign 4. You consistently choose the path that requires the least from you. Difficult decision arrives and you postpone it. Uncomfortable situation appears and you find a way around it. The moment genuine challenge presents itself, you locate the exit. In the short term, this feels like prudence. In the long term, it is the systematic dismantling of your own capacity. Every challenge you avoid becomes an insecurity. Every difficulty you root around becomes a fear, and over time you construct a life defined not by what you chose, but by what you were unwilling to face. The Stoics did not romanticize suffering, but they understood something precise about discomfort. It is not a warning to stop. It is information about where growth is located. Confidence does not arrive before the difficult action. It is built by taking it. Every time you act before you feel ready, you produce evidence that you are capable. That evidence accumulates, and eventually, it becomes the foundation you stand on when the next difficulty arrives. Sign 5. You reduce others to make yourself feel larger. The criticism that comes too quickly, the judgment delivered without being asked, the consistent focus on what others are doing wrong. This is never about the other person. It is always about what is missing internally. When a man needs to diminish someone else to feel adequate, he is revealing the size of his own insecurity, and it comes with a cost that compounds over time. Destroyed trust, damaged relationships, a reputation built on making others feel small. The Stoic alternative is not naive generosity. It is the recognition that a man genuinely focused on his own development has no surplus energy to spend on comparison. He is too occupied with his own standard to concern himself with measuring it against yours. A weak man competes constantly. A strong man evolves constantly. When you shift from comparison to development, the people around you begin to notice a quality in you that cannot be performed. It can only be built. Sign 6. You depend on the right conditions to do the work. Motivation needs to be present. The mood needs to align. The circumstances need to feel right. And because none of those conditions are reliable, the work rarely gets done consistently. This produces something more damaging than failure. It produces the gradual erosion of self-trust. Every time you break a commitment you made to yourself, you weaken your own identity. And a man who has stopped trusting himself has lost the most important instrument he possesses. Discipline is not about volume. It is not about intensity. It is about doing what needs to be done every single day, regardless of mood, regardless of audience, regardless of immediate reward. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire while writing private notes to himself about maintaining his own standard when no one was watching. That is the forge, the invisible daily work that produces the visible results. The standard applied consistently, in the small moments, when the cost of abandoning it would be noticed by no one except you. 6 signs. None of them require a dramatic crisis to be present. All of them operate quietly in the background of daily life. Reactive emotion, permanent excuses, approval dependence, comfort seeking, comparison and diminishment, inconsistent discipline. Eliminate one, not all 6 simultaneously. 1. Choose the one that caused the most discomfort to read about. That discomfort is not a coincidence. It is the location of the work. Apply a different standard to that single pattern for 30 days. Observe what changes. Then move to the next one. Strength is not a state you arrive at. It is a standard you apply, daily, in the moments when no one is watching and the easier path is available. Tell me in the comments. Which of these 6 is the one you most need to address right now? Be direct with yourself. That answer is where you begin.